Hey everybody, this is Reed Kastner-Lang, host of Dharma Unfiltered. This is actually coming in with the first episode, and I think about 11 days. It's been a little bit. It's just kind of, wrapping things up at the university, and I'm actually back home now in Ottawa, Wisconsin. And so we have a very, very special guest on today that I've been looking forward to doing this episode with, Trevor Kaucic. I was connected with Trevor through Jake Robbie, who I did the last podcast with, and we had like a 30-minute conversation over the phone, and I'm like, okay, this is going to be a good podcast episode. So Trevor, if you just kind of want to introduce yourself, where are you from, what's your background, how old are you, what are you doing now, then we can kind of jump into that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I appreciate you having me on. It was an awesome conversation. So like you said, my name's Trevor Kaucic. I'm 23. So right now I run a company. My company is called Best Self. So my purpose is really dualistic. On one end, I'm an online coach. So working with people one-on-one to do fitness consultations. I'm a mindfulness coach as well. So helping people with physical health, mental health, and emotional health. My story, I guess, if you will. So I grew up in Heartland, Wisconsin, so pretty close to you, really close to you, actually. Really, me and my group of friends were, I would consider us the real life version of the Sandlot. So at 8 a.m. every morning, everyone would come over like clockwork, set up the raggedy bases, play in the backyard until lunch, scarf it down like there was no other meal coming, go back out, play till the sun went down. So really, my whole life I've been active. I've always been into various sports, always just out exploring my backyard, playing anything that I can throw, kick, swing, anything like that. Now, I got into entrepreneurship right around my freshman year of college. So my friend and I started up a painting business, and it was one of those things that went really well, made some good money, but it was one of those things where I hit the point of realizing that wasn't actually what I wanted to do. It wasn't what I wanted to contribute with my time and with my service. So I went back to the basics. I read a really good book called The Success Intersection. It talks about intersecting what you love to do, what you're good at, and what makes money. So went to the drawing board and came up with Best Self, and now we are here.
Awesome, man. What high school did you go to?
I went to Arrowhead, so right next to Oconomowoc.
Yeah, big KM rivals, that's for sure.
Oh yeah.
And so you went to college right at first. At first you went to college. Did you go to Oshkosh or?
No, so I went to UW Milwaukee, and It was one of those things where the entire time I was there, I just felt like a fish out of water. Every conversation I had with someone, they talked about the typical sequence you hear of make sure you get good grades, get a good degree so you work a good job. And I think that's a really good situation for a lot of people. I think having that sense of security is great. For me, I am not overly worried about security as much as I am about passion-filled work and really, keeping it exciting, keeping it fun, doing new things. And so it was one of those things, as soon as I got a taste of entrepreneurship, I couldn't get enough of it. And
so what was your thought process like your senior year, junior, senior year of high school, like thinking like what you wanted to do, and then what made you kind of like, I guess your mindset like changed?
Yeah, so most people, when you are going into college, they start thinking about, okay, what do I want to do? I was solely thinking about, okay, how much money do I want to make? And so I solely picked my path, or what I thought would be my path through college, based on, okay, what is my desired annual income and what degree is going to get me a job that'll get that income. And it was one of those things where working the painting business, we were making almost as much money as I would have made with the degree. So it really was a shock to me to figure out, oh, maybe you don't need a degree in order to make that certain level of income.
Mm-hmm. 100%. Why is it so hard for people to understand that? Because I know me and you can have this conversation and it just kind of goes unsaid. Like we just understand it right away. But why do you think there are so few entrepreneurs, and especially now, it's not even just like the term entrepreneurship, but doing what you love and kind of going outside of the box, like going outside of, why is it so hard for so many kids, especially, I'm just focusing on kids because we're both basically kids at this point relative to everyone else. Why is it so hard for young people to get out of the matrix that we were born into?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And it's interesting because people with our thought process, we do think of it almost like the hamster wheel that nobody seems to be able to get off of. But I think it's a matter of a tribal mentality. There are a lot of people who that was their entire upbringing, was two parents who got a college degree and went through that route. And the kid sees their parents living an acceptable lifestyle. So they think to themselves, okay, in order to be part of this tribe, if you will, I need to go through that route. It'll please my parents. It'll please my friends.
Yeah. Because when you say tribal mentality, what comes to my mind, what I think of like tribal, like I think of basically live like our ancestors lived, but obviously up to speed with 2020. Like the classic, like it was basically, I feel like our ancestors, you know, way back in the day, they lived based on necessity, and you do what you need to do in the moment. Now, obviously, I feel like people are still doing that because they're told what to do. They're told that this is the kids get a false feeling of success through going to school, and you know, their parents and everyone in the society basically says, okay, get good grades, and then they see an A on the paper, they say, okay, that's a win. But really, what does that do? What does that do for you? Me in high school, I hated school. I still am not a big fan of just like, I guess, academic. And I hated more so, I guess, about like just the feeling of being in prison. Like it was like, you're in school this time to this time, you do these classes, very little autonomy. And I think that can really fuck people up in the head when they're young too, because then they get into this mentality that that's the only option. And then like they don't feel like they have the opportunity to go off on their own and to do what they actually want to do.
So when I say tribal mentality, what I necessarily mean is your community, your group.
Yeah.
So the tribal mentality is, what is that group doing, and what is, I guess, socially acceptable to that group of people. Mm-hmm. If you feel a sense of camaraderie with a certain group, and that's your, I guess, almost like baby blanket or security blanket, you're not going to want to make decisions that piss off the people in that group. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of kids, when they're transitioning from high school to whatever's next, college is just that automatic response, because it's what, especially in the socioeconomic group that we were brought in, it really is just assumed. It's not one of those things that you're really taught, you know, well, there's trade school, there's running a business, there's all these different options. College is just the assumed route for most kids in the area that we're from.
And I think that it's even not even at the same level as like the East Coast, like, because here, you know, as I've kind of noticed, a lot of the kids at UMiami are very they come from very wealthy families, like a lot on the East Coast and stuff. And I feel like it's even more so like that there. It's like we're kind of more. My parents like are, I guess, when you could say professional, they're white collar, not blue collar, but like we're definitely from like a more blue collar culture, which allows for a little bit more, you know, there's definitely more like people talk more about technical school and about learning a technical skill, and even a little bit entrepreneurship, not as much as there should be, but definitely I think more so than these East Coast kids. Because like that, these East Coast, it's like it's what we have here, like on a whole nother level. Like it's like they have no other option, because their dad was like got successful in finance on Wall Street. His dad, like it's scary, man. And these kids, like they that's not what they want to do. They're doing it because they want to make money. Well, you're gonna make more money starting a business.
Yeah, well, and so two things with that. The first one is, when it comes to entrepreneurship, a big part of it is you have to have the willpower and the self-discipline to do the things necessary to succeed. I think what a lot of people prefer is being told what to do, how to do it, when to do it.
Easier.
That way it just automates things as opposed to you having to put the mental time, mental energy into where your next paycheck is coming from. The other thing too, though, is I know you're pretty big into self-development. Have you heard of Jay Shetty?
I have not.
So you look him up. Awesome guy. So he grew up.
How do you
Grew
spell
up pretty.
Jay?
So it's Jay, and then Shetty, Shetty. So he just wrote a book, Think Like a Monk. So one of the things he said is when he was growing up, his dad really told him there were three options. You can be a doctor, a lawyer, or a failure. And I think that's just so true for so many kids where obviously you expand that out past those professions, but it comes back to a lot of parents will say to their kids, you know, college is how you succeed in life.
Yeah.
It's almost their thought process. If you don't go to school and get a degree, you're going to be poor or you're
What
not
were
going
your
to be
parents
successful.
like?
So my parents were, it just
Or I
wasn't
guess
something that was talked about.
what are your parents like? Because we're still young.
So what's really cool about my parents is my dad has always been, and this is how I perceived it. Now, whether they intended it to be like this, I have no idea. But my dad was very much the let's have fun, keep things exciting, keep them lighthearted.
Yeah.
And my mom was very, you need to learn self-discipline. You need to know to put in the work. And so I was really blessed to have that, take the best of both worlds, if you will, of you do need to have the self-discipline to get things done, but at the same rate, you need to be able to have fun with what you're doing and enjoy the process. I have a saying called get creatively disciplined. So have the discipline to know what you need to do to succeed, but get creative in the process to do that to where you can still have fun and enjoy it.
Yeah.
So I was really lucky to have the parents I had. Now, in terms of college or what was after high school, it was really quick conversation. So it was more the college letters started coming in. They started asking me, what did I want to do? Where did I want to go?
Like
so
junior,
it was really on me. What was that?
Like junior, senior, like senior year.
Yeah, towards the end of junior year and then definitely senior year when it's crunch time, if you will, for grades and getting in applications. So I really lucked out. My parents really left it up to me more or less. But also, again, I just had a different thought process than a lot of the people around me where they were thinking about what careers they wanted to go into and all that.
Senior year, were you, because you hadn't really gotten the entrepreneurship bug yet, you were kind of like confused as to exactly what you wanted to do. So you were like, okay, I'll go to UWM to start and just kind of see how it goes.
Absolutely. If I could have, I would have majored in partying and drinking and hanging out. I was just someone who always wanted to, yes, I wanted to expand my knowledge, definitely. But I was similar to you in the sense that I didn't enjoy school because I really, I guess, didn't enjoy being told that I had to learn these things in this particular way, especially the things that are less applicable to daily life and practicality. So for me, I just really enjoyed with entrepreneurship, you pave your path and you're in control of whether it fails or whether it succeeds. And so as soon as, like you said, like I caught the bug, as soon as I saw that route, I knew it was for me.
There's no other way.
Exactly. Yeah. For someone with our thought process, I really think, that 9 to 5 is just a very unfulfilling lifestyle. And that's not to say it's unfulfilling for everyone, but for someone with our type of thought process, I don't think it can really be a fulfilling path for what you believe you can contribute to the world.
Yeah, I mean, I always like to ask people, what would you be doing if money just wasn't a thing? Like, if you, just what do you really, forget about money? What do you like? What are your interests? What do you like to do? Because in this day and age, Gary Vee always talks about it. Everyone's always talking about it. Literally, just kind of this right now, it's just creating content. Anyone can make it today. By make it, I mean, if you like I was talking to my friends who they're twins and they love fantasy football, and they're at WCTC right now. But I'm like, you know how many people would absolutely love to like watch like if you guys did like a YouTube channel, you know, maybe every other day, even if it's once a week, it doesn't matter. Like as long as it's consistent content, just like you guys talking about fantasy football, there are tons and sports in general, like just to have a different perspective than that of like mainstream news, like of the ESPN and everything else, like literally hearing, you know, two fresh out of high school kids from Wisconsin talk Packers, like that's good content for a hell of a lot of people. But my point is that that goes for anything, anything. You like something, talk about it, post it, and it'll happen, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think I like the point you brought up about just simply asking yourself, what do you like to do?
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I think a lot of people, as they grow up and they start thinking about the things they have to do, or the things that are, you know, like getting insurance and getting like just setting up all those mundane things, it takes that time away from things you enjoy to do. And I think a big question to ask yourself is, for the people who have strayed away from having days filled with excitement and joy and passion, what did you enjoy doing when you were 5 years old?
That's the
Some
thing.
people
You need
playing
to
video games.
literally think
Yeah,
like a kid. Like just think like a
exactly.
kid. Like when you were a kid, you didn't have this phone. Like you're always looking at some random ass bullshit that you don't actually care about. If you wanted to go play outside, you'd go play outside. Now we're still kids, but we have other shit that we want to do. Now that doesn't mean, okay, I'll put it as extreme as this. If you're a stoner and you like smoking weed every day, great. Make content about it. I'm not saying that I'm doing that, but I'm just saying like there's room for everyone. Move to Colorado, start a dispensary. Why not? Like,
Yeah.
don't just smoke weed. Don't just smoke weed. Learn about weed and do something with it.
Yep. When kind of going tangent to what we're talking about, one phrase I absolutely love is, you want to always be childlike, but never be childish. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people have a misinterpretation of like that saying, always be a kid, where they automatically tie it to, you know, throwing tantrums and just being childish. But you have to be able to detach that childlike curiosity from acting like a little kid.
And you should be able to.
You still can be grown up. You still can do all the things Yeah, you can still do all the things you need to get done. But life is just so much more exciting for the people who bring that childlike curiosity and passion and excitement for everything that they're doing. I think a big part of that too is not getting complacent and not losing gratitude for the things that you do have. That's something I coach a lot of my clients on, where maybe they are really successful financially, they have a great family life, they have great friends, and yet something's missing. And it's the fact that they take no time at all to appreciate all these amazing things that they really have. And when you neglect that for long enough, your life is just going to feel blank because you don't tie any emotion to anything going on.
Yeah, and it's really hard when you're in, I'm just going to put it how it is. It's really hard when you're in this environment. You know, I've lived in Wisconsin my whole life, and then just living in Miami for 3 months, just like I'd never lived, like, for one thing, just like in like an urban setting, like even like dorm, but like just how fast I could do everything. But also just to see and experience the energy, like for one on a college campus, for two in a big city, the energy is just completely different. Like I feel like it's a lot harder. It's possible, but it's a lot harder to be as productive when you're in this environment. And it's not a bad thing. Like I feel like everything has their positives, but if you're talking sheer productivity, or if you're starting a business or something, I think it's a lot easier to do when you're in that kind of environment. But the thing is, you can make that environment here. You can choose like the people here that you want to surround yourself with. Like we're both here in Ocon, like Ottawa, like we're here right now. So like there's people here. There's people that think just like us. You just got to find them.
Yeah, one, especially when you're talking about environments conducive to productivity, a big part of that oftentimes is within people's control.
Mm-hmm.
But it comes down to the willpower to get rid of the distractions and the unnecessary things filling your day. So, like for me, when I first started this business, I have a lot of friends who really enjoy going out on the weekends or hanging out in the afternoon. I have a lot of different potential opportunities to get distracted, but really you have to think to yourself what your end goal is. So for me, I have what I call the big questions. So something no one enjoys talking about is everyone at some point, unfortunately, is going to die. And I think when you hit that point at the end of your life, you're going to be asking questions that are just racing through your head to gauge whether or not you're fulfilled with the life you lived. So you have to figure out what those questions are and reverse engineer what's going to get you to a yes, so that your day is always filled with kind of moving the dial towards answering the big questions. Because really at the end of your life, are you going to be happier that you put time in every day to develop a business that impacts hundreds of thousands of people? Or are you going to be more happy that you got through an entire season on Netflix?
Yeah.
The Netflix is the easier choice, but at the end of the day, you just need to determine what's more worth it for you.
100%. Yeah. It's really a short-term versus long-term thought process in essence. Like it's like right now, like it's like, you know, if it's a Monday afternoon or something, like I've been super like disciplined the past 3 months, like with my schedule. Like I only really like did stuff, like went out like Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday through Thursday. Like it's constant. It's the same thing every day. But that's how, like I like you said, kind of reverse engineer what the majority of people are doing, and you ask yourself like why, like what's the opportunity cost of it? Like what am I going to become better because of, like am I going to become better going to hang out with this person, or am I going to be better sitting at home working on something? And maybe the answer is that you will be better hanging out with that person, because there are not, you know, it totally depends on the person. It depends on the people that you're surrounding yourself with, because a lot of people, and this is an energy game. It's all an energy game. It's like there's this kid that went to UM the first like 2-3 weeks. His name's Kimani, and he dropped out, and he's posting a YouTube video every day. Yeah, you should check him out on YouTube. It's like his thing is Real Kimani, REAL KYMANI, and he was talking in a video the other day. He's like, we're at spiritual war, all of us, because, and it's only COVID has only brought it out. It's like, are you going to be the person to still be complaining about COVID right now? Or are you going to be the person that understood that COVID is the greatest opportunity that has happened to all of us months ago, and now be at a point where you already he says overstand, where you already overstood that. Now he says understand. He's been doing this for a while, but how did you react? You know, you got to battle the negative energy every day.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I really am so passionate about what I'm doing with Best Self. Is I really truly believe that at the foundation of being successful at anything in life is having the energy to do the thing. Mm-hmm. And in order to have energy, you do need to take care of your mind, your body. You need to make sure that you're running at an optimal level. Mm-hmm. So that way you can sustain positive energy all day. I mean, they say you are what you eat. So if you're having, McDonald's for lunch, Taco Bell for dinner, and Twinkies when you wake up in the morning after a night of drinking, you just won't have that energy to do what you need to do.
And it's funny because it sounds so like cliche, but the thing is that's so like accurate. Literally those foods like back here, like it's so accurate.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it's, again, it goes back to the easier choice, obviously, is if you had a long day, and it's a total spiral effect. Let's say you had a stressful day at work. You don't feel like taking time to make a meal when you get home. So you just stop at the McDonald's drive-thru on your way back. And when you get home, you have no energy to work on your business. So you go to the Netflix station, binge on that. It's such a negative feedback loop.
If you're talking spiritual energy, like that is a downward spiral. It's going to take some work to get out of it. You can, but that's like not good trend.
Yeah, so there's a story I love. I think it's a Native American story. I don't know for sure, but I absolutely love it. It talks about how this boy goes up to his dad and he asks, Dad, how come, sometimes I feel like I'm being good and sometimes I feel like I'm being bad? And the dad goes and tells him about how there are two wolves living inside everybody. And one of the wolves is a good wolf and one of the wolves is a bad wolf. And the boy asks, well, which wolf wins? And he says, the one you feed more. And I think that's so powerful and so true. If you continue to do the things you know you need to do and you keep feeding that good energy, that's where your life is going to lead. And it sounds so obvious, but, common sense may not always be so common.
Especially when not common sense is constantly reinforced in all of our minds.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah, I mean, it is a constant progression, and you can't, like, even if you're constantly surrounded, like, you just got to be real sometimes. Like, the easiest way to keep your vibrations high and your positive energy and your spirit high is just to eliminate anything that doesn't feel good. Eliminate, if you're not hanging out with people that are making you feel good and making you feel like you're like, if they don't make you feel excited about tomorrow, like what the hell is the point?
Dude, I love that phrase. And another good one for just keeping your energy high. And this is something I try to practice. Obviously, I'm not going to claim to be perfect. I fall short many days, but I live by the philosophy where you should spend half of your time for yourself, so growing yourself, and half your time in service. Because I think, obviously, if you're spending all your time serving others, you're just going to be depleted. You're going to have no energy for anybody, including yourself.
Yeah.
If you spend all the time on yourself and you're not helping anybody, again, that's just not very fulfilling. So I think when you talk about spiritual energy, that's just a perfect philosophy to make sure your bucket is full. That way you can fill up as many other buckets as you can.
Yeah. And understanding too, like there needs to be, there's bad energy is fine. Like there's never going to be all positive energy. And the good thing about that is, like, when there's bad energy, bad things happen, the good just feels that much better.
Well, and so what's funny about this is, if you would have told me that you can't always have good days when I was 2 years younger, I would have debated you to the death on this. I used to believe genuinely that you could have all good days all the time and always be happy, and anytime you weren't happy was a failure, basically. And it took a lot of just life experiences, I guess, and sometimes kind of getting emotionally slapped in the face to realize that, yeah, if you don't experience those sad, lonely, almost depressed or anxious experiences, you don't know how good those good experiences are.
Yeah.
And so if you're always having good experiences, it's a dangerous thing, because that then becomes your normal and you just don't appreciate it as much.
Yeah, no, definitely. 100%. Yeah. It's just, it's funny. If I relate it to drinking. Drinking's a classic example. You get absolutely hammered. You feel like you're on top of the world in the night, and the next day you feel like shit. But it's all part of the process. That's life. That's literally life. Like, it's teaching. Like, you learn from everything. Like, just that right there is teaching you that, like, you can't get too. You just gotta stay. Instead of this, you want to stay here. just bring it
Yeah.
a little bit more. Like, and that's, experience brings consistency. And when you are emotionally consistent, like you're just better overall. You're better in everything. You're better in relationships because like good moments will have, bad moments will have, but you better know how to react to those bad moments because you've seen it before.
Yeah. On the other side of that too, I think it's important, let's say you are hanging out with all of your best friends, you're having a great time. I think it's important to really be in that moment and feel those emotions. I think that's where people hit that cascade effect is they try to only feel the good emotions, and then when those negative emotions come in, they just block them out and try to avoid them.
Yeah.
And I think what happens with that is it's like pulling back a rubber band. You think you're keeping it at bay, but as soon as you can't keep those emotions at bay anymore, that sucker's just going to snap and send your emotional stability into chaos.
So a lot of the work that you do, is it like one-on-one? Well, obviously, like, do you have an office right now? Is it all Zoom? Like, what are your clients kind of like? Like, what is your work?
Yeah, so I do it on two fronts. So the first one is private clients, one-on-one.
You're
That
just doing a
is,
bunch of Zoom calls right now?
yeah, I keep everything virtual right now.
Yeah.
I just think better safe than sorry. Why not? And
It might
it
be
just makes people
it
feel
might
more
be more
comfortable.
efficient too. Like,
Oh, absolutely,
yeah.
yeah. And so yeah, for my consultations with my private clients, I'll do Zoom, and then I'll send them monthly programs for physical fitness, so a workout program. I have an app that they can log in, they can see video tutorials on that. But then on the other side of things is I do public speaking. So I recognize that with private clients, you can go so much like more in
Yeah.
depth, but also then you can only impact one person at a time. When you're public speaking, if you have 100 people in the audience, even if only half of them receive the message you're trying to portray, you just impacted the lives of 50 people in one swoop. And I love the idea of that. And so most of my talks so far have been about mental health, stress reduction, making sure that you're living the life that you want to live and not just being reactionary.
Yeah.
And luckily, I've had really good feedback from that, especially in a time right now where everybody's thrown off their normal and everybody's a little either depressed or anxious or worried or burnt out. And so it's really, really great to be able to help people get through that.
So a lot of your private clients, I guess what's your main audience? Like, is it like what age range? And then kind of if you could like generalize kind of like what the kind of their situation is and like, how has it been working with them? Do people stay committed, or have they made some change for themselves? Like, how's it been going?
Yeah. I mean, in terms of do people stay committed, that's all over the map. So what I say for what I say for clients is if you come to me and say it's not working, I'll always respond with, is it not working or are you not working?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're putting in the work and it really isn't working, then yeah, I have to go back to the drawing board. But I will tell you right now, that has never happened.
Yeah.
Anytime someone comes to me and says, hey, I'm not seeing any results. Well, actually on the app that I have for my clients, it tells me when they do and when they don't do their workouts. And anyone who's ever come to me saying that they haven't seen results, there may be 1 for 20 on going to the gym that month. So I'd say usually if I had to kind of take the average, a lot of my clients are either my age or a little older, so upper 20s, lower 30s.
Yeah.
And generally it's people who, they thought they had it figured out. So they're doing well financially.
How do they find out about you?
Typically word of mouth. Yeah. So it started really, I worked at a few different gyms, got my name out there as a personal trainer and a fitness coach. I did a couple workshops at those gyms for mindfulness, and really it just spread from there. So a lot of them have either been people in my direct circle or, 1 or 2 layers out from there who have just heard about me and my work and what my specialties are. And for a lot of people, they pick me over other trainers because of the fact that I don't just focus on physical attributes. I focus on getting your mind right. And that's such a big part of being healthy. And so that's where I get a lot of my clients, is people who really need help, not even necessarily with knowing what exercises to do, but making sure that their mindset is right, so that way they can really attack their fitness with optimal energy, optimal optimism, all of that. So
Okay. Yeah. And then so like what does your next couple of years look like? Like, are you going to continue to grow this? Are you working on any other business? Like what, in terms of money making, like what's like your deal with that?
yeah, so Best Self, really, it's kind of like, I know we got introduced through Jake. It's kind of like the Ashtaraj in the sense that I have one focus right now, but Best Self, really, I plan for it to be a very
Okay.
wide
So
system.
it's the platform, and then you can kind of branch off into a bunch of different things.
Exactly. And it encompasses, at its core, Best Self is always going to be whatever avenue I choose to deviate and go at. It's going to come back to the idea of how do you truly move the dial towards becoming your best self. So the first thing is health and fitness, because I believe that's the foundation. But for anyone listening, get ready, because what I would love to do is, obviously I've got a passion for public speaking. I think seminars like the ones like Tony Robbins has, or Lewis Howes with the School of Greatness seminar, I want to do a best self seminar that brings in experts in fitness, health, finance, relationships, entrepreneurship. I want to bring in experts in all those areas. So it's a whole, let's say, day or even weekend just filled with people who want to learn about how to be their best self in all aspects of life. So not just one area, but really how to be well-rounded and feel good about how you're doing in every area of your life.
Do you have like a YouTube channel?
No, but I'm working on it right now. So similar to what you're doing, actually. So I'm gonna have
Because
to have you on my
when you say
podcast.
like doing like a seminar type thing, what I think is like, especially now with COVID, like, and I think this might be better in terms of reach anyway, like literally just kind of doing what we're doing here, like just if whether it's a podcast or YouTube or however, whatever platform you want to use, like you can do all of that virtually with Zoom, and then just like you can reach like unlimited people. I mean,
Yeah,
obviously,
so you got me. So I haven't announced this yet, so I guess I'll announce it on your podcast. So I am planning on doing a best self podcast. So it's going to be very similar to what I'm talking about with these seminars, where I bring on people not only with health and fitness, but again, entrepreneurship, finance, relationships,
yeah,
self-development in general, and just have really open conversations with people who have not even mastered necessarily, but just succeeded in achieving a high level in that area of their life.
yeah.
I mean, heck, I'll bring someone on if they're just a really nice person. I'll bring them on and ask them what their thought process is in dealing with other people.
Right.
So
Because
you
that's
heard it here first. There
like,
is going to be a best self podcast. It'll start sometime in the next few weeks. I'm just getting a list of guests, and then you'll get the ball rolling on that.
Yeah. It sounds similar to what this is. It's just, I really didn't have any sort of, I kind of just brought my thoughts together, and I was like, okay, like what is the best way to reach people? Like, and I think that I was watching like the Joe Rogan, Matthew McConaughey thing, Joe Rogan Experience, but McConaughey was talking about how he's writing a book right now, and he was talking about filters. So like even a book, the filter is like the pages of the book, the filter is the editor. But really, I think that there's not a better platform or a more unfiltered platform than like video and audio, because we're able to go in a lot more in depth in the, we're 40 minutes in right now, like 40 minutes, an hour and a half. We're able to go a lot more in depth than just like a 30-second YouTube or Instagram video. No,
Yeah.
it's good for all.
Two things with that. One, I know exactly which one you're talking about. I watched that episode. I can't wait to read that book, Green Lights.
Yeah.
But also, I completely agree. And I think that's what's so fascinating about this format is you don't have the restrictions of a TV network. You don't have the restrictions of, like you're talking about, those filters or those levels in between what you're trying to portray and what people receive.
Yeah.
And it's just so cool to be able to sit down with people you handpick to have conversations about exactly what you want to learn about and what you want to talk about. And I just think there's something special about it.
And it's unlimited. It's limitless. Like, I'm just going to do it forever. Like, I'm just going to, over this break here, I'm going to pretty much pump out like one a day because I can, because we have time, because an hour and a half, like as we've talked about, like an hour and a half that could be spent watching Netflix is probably like there. I don't know if there's a better use of time than this right here. Like two minds coming together and talking about your experiences for an extended period of time, just one-on-one. Nobody knows how to have one-on-one conversations anymore. Everything's in passing. Everything's short. Like, we're never able to just sit down and just talk.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that when we talked on the phone. It's just so rare to have those open, vulnerable conversations nowadays. But to your point, that was actually one of the biggest changes I made in my life, was going from watching TV to watching podcasts on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
I'll still spend 2 hours a day lounging around, just sitting on my laptop. But the difference is
it's what
all that information is stuff that I can use and apply in my life.
Yeah.
So like for me, I'm huge on self-development and mindset podcasts. So like Lewis Howes, Tom Bilyeu, Jay Shetty. I know you talked about Gary Vee, Tony Robbins, like all those people. Essentially, you're getting free coaching from those people when you go on YouTube and listen to what they have to say and what their guests have to say.
Yeah, it's like,
a lot of times coaches like that, they'll charge you hundreds of dollars for information like that. The only difference is it applies to you directly as opposed to a general statement. But other than that, it's free information. You can't beat that.
And when I agree. And like when you talk about like YouTube and stuff, like I watch a lot of videos, but I'm not going to go and like learn, like I don't watch like I don't watch like technical skills. Like I don't try to learn like technical skills on YouTube because I'm going to learn that stuff as I go. I've already learned it as I went, but I like to watch, kind of to your point, like more like just minds, just brilliant minds that I like even if it like Dave Chappelle, I've become like a huge fan of just because of like the way that he thinks and the amounts of fucks that he just does not give. And same with Kevin Hart. Those like they just think on another level. Same with Kanye West. I like these creators because they completely went their own path and like they're like it's just all coming to fruition for them.
Well, I think a big part of it too is I completely agree. I'm never going to look up like how to fix a lawnmower on YouTube.
Yeah.
But in terms of what I watch, it sounds like you and I are really similar, where I truly believe that success leaves blueprints and it leaves clues. And so if you can go on YouTube and literally watch these people in their everyday life, how they talk, how they act, how they portray themselves, if what they're doing is the lifestyle you want to live, they're giving you a blueprint basically on how to do it. So all you have to do then is put in the work. And that's why I watch so many of them and so many different people, is you can find the commonalities in what they all do and how they all talk and act. And if you can emulate that, but put your own personal spin on it and still be yourself.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Just kind of taking clues, like you said, from these other people, incorporating it into your life. If you like it, keep it. If you don't have to do it. Find what works for you. And as you continue, it's all about this again. It's just the vibrations. As long as you keep watching like good content that makes you feel good, as long as you keep getting things done that make you feel good, not getting things done that you need to get done. Like it becomes an addiction, a good addiction. It becomes like it's just a mindset thing. Like I don't want anything that I don't want.
Oh no, for sure. And I completely agree that it is. I think addiction is a really good word for it, actually, where you get this dopamine rush when you do something.
But it's like a long-term dopamine rush. It's different than the dopamine rush that you get, in the short term.
Yep, exactly. And that's why, even in my personal life so I compete in obstacle course racing. So Just this summer, I ran a 100 obstacle marathon. I managed to do a 60-foot free solo at Devil's Lake. And especially when it's things like that that are really, whether it's physically, mentally, or emotionally challenging, when you put in the time, you put in the effort, and then you get to that point, like you're talking about, the process, you don't necessarily get a huge dopamine rush, but when you notice yourself check a box that has been sitting there and waiting to be accomplished for that long, and you know it was difficult, there is no greater feeling in the world than that. No hit off of a vape or drink or anything like that will compare.
Yeah, and I think you can learn a lot from for example, like at a marathon, like the people who just completed a marathon are either everyone's there for a reason. Now that reason could be they're trying to do it so they can put the 26.2 sticker on their car.
Yeah.
Or they're there because like kind of like you're saying, like literally because intrinsically like they want to, know that they can do it. And that's why like I ran cross country, like, and it was just 5Ks, but even that, like 3.1 miles, it wasn't easy. It was like pretty hard, but like every day I came out of it and I was like, okay, that was really not fun. And I'm one of, 3 kids here from like there's very few kids that actually wanted to do it, but because we were doing it, that has conditioned our mind, or it should have conditioned our mind to this day. Like,
well, with that, I don't think there's any better test of your mental willpower than endurance sports. Because you are just trapped in a mental battle between sitting down and stopping and continuing to know you're going to suffer for the rest of the race.
Yeah.
And for me, what's really interesting about why I did that race, it's called the Highlander Assault, is because my identity as an athlete was, I am not an endurance runner. I refuse to run anything further than a 5K. I think it's pointless. I think it's stupid.
Did you play
and then all of a
sports at
sudden
Arrowhead?
What's that?
Did you play sports in high school?
I did, yeah. So I played hockey, ran track, and played baseball.
Yeah.
And then I did a little bit of kickboxing and things like that as well. But so like for me, it was like all sprints, 100 meters or less, something like that. And so I'm really big recently in the past year or two on really challenging those attributes of yourself that you think make up who you are. For example, being a distance runner. So for me, I went from saying that I never will run anything further than 3.1 miles to a year later running 26.2 with 100 obstacles in the way. And it just goes to show it's not me bragging. It's not me tooting my own horn. It's me trying to set an example for people and show them all the limits you're putting on yourself short of jumping off a building and flying are really just mental traps that you're giving yourself.
And it's completely metaphorical at the same time, like kind of setting, like you feel like, I mean, how many clients do you have?
So private clients, I've got 6, and a couple of them are as simple as, I'll just write them up a program, check in once with them. And then some of them are as involved as they send me a couple messages a day, 4 or 5 days a week. I check in with them twice a month. So it's really up to them, but yeah, about 6 private clients.
So with the 6 clients, and then obviously the people that you're impacting, like from public speaking and stuff, when you run a marathon, like you're doing it both for yourself, but you're doing it for them too, and like, as you said, kind of setting an example that just gives you a totally different willpower. Like when you're,
absolutely. Yeah.
Multiple reasons and motivations.
Yeah. And that I'm so big on accountability to other people. So that's why for me, I can get up and be that driven to, get my reading done, get my exercise done, get my business stuff done, is because I know that if I can get that exercise in, I can set the example for someone who's trying to be more fit. If I get the reading done, I can be the example for someone who's trying to develop that habit.
Yeah.
And so it's really for me about, obviously, yes, it's cool to be good at stuff and well-educated and all of that, but it's way more empowering to try your best to set a great example for other people on how to
Cool
live.
to us. It's not
What's
cool.
that?
And I think when you say, it's cool to be in shape and to be knowledgeable, like I think we're on the same page with that, but like I think that the majority of people, like, they associate learning with school, and it has like an automatic negative connotation when you really actually learn. We're learning all the time. And yeah, I totally agree. Like, it should be
Yeah.
cool, but people need to like look at it that way.
Yeah, no, I agree. And there's a big difference between school and education.
Mm-hmm.
And that was something, I still have a letter from my grandpa who he passed away a while ago, but I keep it with me all the time because I look at this exact word all the time in that letter. It says, I hope you continue to educate yourself throughout your entire life. It doesn't say stay in school your entire life.
Mm-hmm.
Continue to educate yourself. And I think that's so powerful, just to keep in mind that if you're not green and growing, you're probably brown and dying. So you need to stay green and growing. And a big part of that is continuing to educate yourself on the things that can be applied to your life.
Yeah, and try to get other people green and growing. But a lot of people, they're not ready for it. You just got to plant the seed for them later.
Yeah, well, and that's one thing. Again, I have no idea if my perspective on this is going to change, but it's changed back and forth plenty of times already. Where a while ago, I'm an altruist, so I'm very big on not only myself but all my friends,
The greater,
trying to
does that
constantly.
basically mean like greater good, or like what does that word mean?
Yeah, so an altruist is someone who is really big on like just being morally sound and trying to always improve and be the best
Okay.
person you can be. And I am like, obviously, I've developed my entire life around that ideology. And so I was always challenging and pushing my closest friends to do the same. So when I noticed one of my friends wasn't exercising, I would get on them and tell them, hey, you got to do this because it's good for you. But now I'm to the point where it's one of the, I think of the saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing with other people where, you know, you can only do all the things that are the best for you, and you can try to help someone, but ultimately it's up to them whether or not they want to help themselves.
Yeah, and
And so
hopefully,
I've,
so you
I've
can,
developed
yeah,
a
you can put the building blocks in place for them. You can give them the seed, but are they going to water it? Are they going to actually do it for themselves? And also, like, I think that, again, like with the energy thing, like even like if, if like me and you, we're focused on what we're doing, like that should almost like wear off on the other people. Like when the other kids are looking at you and they're like, oh, well, I mean, he's doing a lot right now. What am I doing? Like, what am I doing with my time? Maybe I should be
yeah.
doing something different.
Well, and it makes a huge difference. I have a very direct example of one of my friends. I kept just nagging him all the time about things he was doing wrong. And bless him, he never snapped back. He never yelled at me for calling him out all the time. But it was one of those things where I noticed eventually, like, oh, I'm just being such a dick to this
Yeah,
guy. And so
right.
I completely stopped nagging him. And all I did was just keep setting what I thought was like the best example for, again, my life and how to be the best version of myself. That could be completely different than what makes him the best version of himself. But in just doing the actions and not trying to persuade him, he came up to me maybe 8 or 9 months later and said, I'm really glad that you're setting the example, and I'm really glad that you're not just yelling at me for it. So it's one of those things, you're never going to, see the fruit the same time you plant the seed.
Yeah.
But in planting that seed, you can have faith and know that fruit's going to come, and that the goal that you've set out to achieve is going to happen.
And there's no better feeling than that, like with the ketchup business, it's all about that. We'll say nothing better than seeing the fruits of your own labor. And at first I was thinking, oh, well, when we sell the ketchup business, the fruits of the labor is going to be the money, but fruits of labor is actually a much better tasting fruit of labor is like you said, actually directly, personally impacting someone and having someone like, you know, obviously once this podcast gets off the ground and stuff, like if I get anyone saying, like, I at the first couple episodes, I had some friends hit me up and they were like, hey, I really like the podcast, just keep doing it. Like, that's enough. Like one person could have said that to me. Nobody had to say it to me. I should say nobody had to say it to me to want to keep doing it, because I just like doing it. But when I hear people actually enjoying the content and saying this is cool to hear what other kids our age are doing, and you know, different mindsets that we're in, that's everything.
And it really is. It's I know I mentioned this to you. I I still believe it is pretty rare to find people not only with the mindset that we share, but also with the drive for that lifestyle, combined with the work ethic to make it happen. And I think the type of people who have those are having entirely different types of conversations, especially when they're, you know, late teens, early 20s. And so to have the podcast you have, and to have the conversations with these type of people, I think is a really powerful thing, because it sheds light on what a lot of people assume to be a very dark and lonely path. And so like I told you, I just mowed through all the episodes of your podcast the second I heard about it on Friday, before coming on. And really, it was one of those things. I was so happy to be able to contribute to this, because it's something that I think is going to get a lot of conversation stirring about. There are people out there who want to have these conversations.
I know, but I'm at a really interesting point right now, just like in the past year, how much has changed, you know. Literally a year ago, being in high school and knowing that a year ago I would not have ever thought about doing this like right now, because as much as I say I don't give a fuck what these other kids think I did then, and I really don't now. Like subconsciously, I don't know what it was. It was scary because it had built up, it had manifested till that point. But I only had a few good friends, 5 or 10 good friends. So I really had no reason to actually care about what all the other kids would say, but I did. And now it's just kind of just getting out of high school it's like first day out of prison. It's crazy. Like, it's like I'm free. Let me fly.
Yeah, well, and in terms of, you know, the idea behind not caring what people think, I do think that I care less what people think than, let's say, the average 23-year-old. However, just based on, you know, most of us are on social media, most of us are always talking about what we're doing for a living and who we're friends with and all these things, it's very hard not to care what people think when that's the staple of conversations being had.
Care what your
But I think it's
people think.
important to
Care what
what's that?
I think it's important, like, care what your people think, like, care what family, care what close friends. But if you never did anything for me, if you're not, like, why do I like that? I guess those people are more so like the people that I care about them, but their thoughts and what they say, unless it's positive, isn't coming into my domain. Like, I just don't want it.
Yeah. Well, another part of caring what people think is you can care what someone has to tell you,
Right.
and disagree with it.
Of course.
So like so I mean it's not that you don't care what your parents have to say about you, but again, for me, for a lot of other people probably listening to this podcast, they're going to have their parents saying, you know, why are you starting this business? You have no idea if it's going to succeed. Why don't you just go to college? You can care that they're saying that. You can take it at face value while still understanding that's just not what you're going to do.
And it's your decision. Once you're 18, your life is up to you.
But I think a big part of that, so if if you're going to defy, especially like an authority figure like your parents, someone who has put time, money, tears, sweat into making you who you are, if you're going to defy that and you're just going to say like, no, I'm not going to college, you better have a plan to back that up.
Yeah,
So if you're just saying like, no, I'm not going to go to school, and then like you're hanging out in their living room, eating their food and
you better be
not
working and not
working,
at
not doing
Walmart.
anything. Yeah.
You better
So
be
you better
working
have a
at
plan to
something.
back it up.
Work on something. Don't work somewhere. Like work on something. Build something.
And the thing with being, if building a business is what you really want to do, you need to get obsessed. Like this is something, and my friends can attest to this. They may watch this and they'll be shaking their heads. Yes. Anytime anyone brings up anything with health or fitness, I turn into a different human being. I get so much more amped. I always have so much to add because it's something that I care so deeply about. And so if you're going to start, just like I bet if anyone brings up ketchup, I know exactly what you're thinking about. And
Yeah.
so it's one of those things where if you're going to start the business, go all in. Like if that's what you really want to do and that's what you want to contribute, go all in.
But if you want to maximize the potential for success for the business, you gotta maximize yourself. So you got to go all in on yourself. Like you said, you gotta be performing physically and mentally like as high as you can. And again, there's no peak. I don't like thinking peak because realistically, there's always things that bring you down a little bit, but generally staying at a certain level.
Yeah. I completely agree about you're never going to be, ironically, me saying this, you're never going to be your best self in the sense that every single day there's 100 upon thousands of decisions that you could have optimized something a little more or done it more effectively.
It can be
but at the end of the day, you're a human being. You cannot analyze that fast to the point where you're doing everything to the best of its ability all the time. But that being said, I obviously plan ahead, but I take every day as a clean slate. So if yesterday I hit the gym, read, got business done, did all that, doesn't matter. I wake up this morning, fresh slate. On the other end of it, if I had a horrible day yesterday, I ate a frozen pizza for lunch and had McDonald's for dinner, and doesn't matter. It's a new day. And if you can string together a great day for weeks, months, years, that's where you're really going to see it take effect.
And don't necessarily look at a great day only as productive. Never. Think of it as a great day that feels good for you. Like it feels like, I mean, yes, my productivity has increased, but that's also because I've learned just to give myself, breaks during the day, and I would watch a YouTube video, watch some Hulu episode or something, just like a day that feels good. So do all the things, like if it means a little bit of time, spent with some friends at the end of the day, you got the things that you needed to get done, that you wanted to get done. You ate healthy food, you worked out. That's a great day to me.
Yeah. I like what you say about, if you are trying to just crank out productivity all day, every day, you're going to be so much less productive. That's something I preach all the time is really, if you want to be extremely productive, you'll work for an hour at a time, and then you'll take 5 minutes and just reset and do something to take your mind off of what you're doing, because you can really only put extremely concentrated focus on one thing for about an hour before maybe you start getting distracted by something over there, or you notice yourself starting to look up something on your phone or on your computer.
Unless you're doing something that you really care about, and then you get into the flow state and it's like nothing else matters.
Yeah, I mean, flow state, I'm obsessed with flow state. I attempt to be in flow state all the time, even when I'm sleeping. Obviously, I can't do that. I have not mastered it. But when you are in that zone where you're just not worried about anything, and you just feel so dialed in, there is very few greater feelings than living life in that state.
Yeah.
And I think a big part of that is not stressing out. When
And
you're
so
stressed out,
that's
you
the
are
only
not.
my only caveat to anything you've said today is when you said if you have a business, you got to be obsessed. But obsessed isn't necessarily like my dog better not bark. Tucker, come here. Obsessed like isn't necessarily sustainable. Like I would say that when we started Catch Up Please, like end of sophomore year, all of junior year, we were pretty damn obsessed. But it's really difficult, and I think it might be damn near impossible to like. You got to be real in that like you're not going to be obsessed. Like now we're over 2.5 years into the development of the business, and like it's catch up at the end of the day. So look at it exactly how it is. I was never looking back, I was never obsessed with ketchup, but I've never been obsessed with anything. I just like the process. Like I enjoy it. And so like
Yeah.
not becoming too like strung up on it. And like when you become obsessed, you feel like you always have to be doing something. And when you're not necessarily doing something, you do what needs to be done better.
I completely agree. So when I say obsessed, I say it, I think obsessed can be taken like to the point you're talking about where it's like you don't think about anything else. You don't think about eating, sleeping, using the bathroom. You only think about that thing.
Mm-hmm.
When I say obsessed, I think about it as like you need to really be involved in what you're doing.
Yes.
Past the point of, so yeah, I'll rephrase it. So most people, when they go to work, they clock in, they do their job, they clock out, they leave work behind. When you're starting a business, there are going to be thoughts popping into your head all the time. And the difference is if it's a 9-to-5 job, you don't necessarily have to act on any of those. For me, I'll have my phone just typing notes at like 10 o'clock at night about business ideas. And I think that's really the difference is if you're looking to start a business, you need to be willing to use that mental energy more frequently throughout the day than someone who just clocks in, does their job, clocks out, forgets about it.
Clock in, clock out is made up. Entrepreneurship is basically, I think, a fast track to understanding yourself spiritually. Like you definitely like, you're not being told how to do things. Like I do the same thing. Like I just have this notebook, day by day, I just write down, like I would every morning before I look at my phone or anything, every day, I would sit down and I'd have my school assignment notebook thing. I'd write down the things I need to know I do for school. And then the things I just think big picture, I think, cause I got a ton of shit going on. I get Catch Up Please. I got Superior Services. I got this, like, I'm like, all right, what are we doing today? And then it's usually fun. Like, this is fun. This is everything that I do in this notebook. I look forward to doing, even if it's print invoices. Why? Because that means that I'm going to have 3 cases of ketchup going to Good Harvest Market. Like, fuck yeah.
Yeah. One, so I love 2 things about that. The first one I love is first thing in the morning, you're not looking at your phone and pulling up social media. You're doing something that's intentional for you. Mm-hmm. And I think that's huge. Like for me, my morning routine is really like unique and a lot of people will laugh at it. But the first thing I do when I get out of bed is I dance for 2 minutes.
With Seriously. Music or without?
Doesn't matter. Sometimes there's music, sometimes it's just in my head. But just something about just getting up and getting your body moving right away, to me, just gets me so energized for the day. And especially because I'm teaching boot camps at 6 a.m., so I'm at the gym at 5:30 a.m. And if I'm not, energized and ready to go, and I'm not a coffee drinker, so I need to be wired and ready and enthusiastic. And I think just the part of that morning is huge. The other thing I like that you have is a calendar. So Brendan Burchard is a really famous self-development person. And one thing he said to me really kind of, again, emotionally slapped me in the face. Seems to happen a lot. He was saying, if you're really grateful for life, you're not going to show it by practicing gratitude. You're going to show it by having your calendar completely filled. Because in order to prove that you're grateful for the life you have, you should be trying to make the most of that life. And so I think anyone who really like has a calendar and uses it well cares way more about their time because they're willing to make sure they're intentional about it. So for me, my calendar, even if it is just, hang out with friends, chill and watch podcasts, from the time I wake up to the time I go to bed, my calendar is usually full.
Yeah.
One day a week, maybe I'll have it where, I'm like, all right, this is going to be my relaxation day. I'm not even going to worry about the calendar. But most of the time, my calendar is completely filled with stuff. And I think that just shows that you're way more, again, intentional about how you're spending your time, who you're spending your time with, all that.
Yeah. Yeah. I like the idea about even like I usually just write down the things that I need to do. But if you completely mix in on the same sheet, on the same calendar, hang out with friends with, the other things, it's psychological. Like you feel like the other things that you feel like you need to do, you have to get done, it becomes less stressful. Like it's just all part of life. Like it's just things that you're going to do.
Yeah. So what I do is Sunday, usually like sometime soon before I go to bed, I'll plan out my entire next week. And again, it'll be full. So that way, first of all, I don't have to think about it. I just get to wake up, boom, my whole day is right there.
Yeah.
And I go through because I've already planned it out. And what I also do is I color code it. So I have ones, twos, and threes. So a 3 means, yeah, if I get it done, that's great. If something else comes up, I don't even have to worry about it. A 2 is it's important. I should do it unless something really urgent comes up. And if it's a 1, it doesn't matter if I crash my car and break my arm. I'm not going to the hospital until that 1 is complete. So I have that system of, what can actually be rearranged and what do I not have to worry about? And then what is like, I have to do that.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. How many people have that kind of system? Not many. But
Yeah, I don't know. And I really haven't had it long, maybe a few months, and it works wonders because again, you don't go through your whole day thinking about, oh shoot, did I forget to do something? Or is there something today that I'm just not thinking of? It's all right there. Anytime I schedule a meeting, a consultation, a call, I put it in there right away and I label it 1, 2, or 3, and I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. Yeah. That sounds good. Well, yeah, so I got a couple of things to do here this afternoon, but I guess to kind of wrap up, we were talking about we're going to die. What do you want to remember? What do you want to be remembered for? What do you want to be glad that you did and not regret that you didn't do when you're laying on your deathbed?
Yeah, so it's something that I think about a lot, almost every day. And the biggest thing is I don't care if people remember my name. I don't care if they remember who I was. I want people to remember the life that I lived, even if they can't think, oh, it's Trevor. It's like I want them to think, oh, remember that guy who blank. And to fill in the blank, I want to be known for someone who took chances because I was lucky enough to work at a retirement home and I got to talk to those people. And I asked, what is your biggest regret? Every single one of them said, I wish I took more chances. So I'm going to learn from them. I want to take more chances. I want to make sure that I impact as many people as I can, as profoundly as I can. And then the third one is I just want to have, so Jesse Itzler is a really famous businessman. Look up Marquis Jet or Living with a Seal, the book. He talks about having a good life resume. And that's really big for me is I just want to have a really cool life resume.
That looks good to you. That looks good to you. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. You don't have to explain it to anyone else.
Yep.
So yeah, those are really the things I want to be remembered for. But what about you?
Well, yeah, I mean, I definitely, I agree on a lot of it. I think like, I mean, right now I'm still kind of figuring it out. Like I have no idea what I want to major in, if I'm going to even stay in college. I don't know. We'll see about that. But I guess kind of, it's constantly changing. Like my thoughts are completely different 4 years ago than they are now. So like, obviously they're going to be very different 4 years from now. So I'm just kind of, I guess, going off of like my experiences, my prior experiences, and then looking into the future. Like it's kind of like with the ketchup business, you know, it's not like life. It's not like you're just worried about the present all the time, or like how life should be. Like it's like we're thinking about the last 6 months and the next 6 months. Nothing more, nothing less. So I guess what I'm trying to do right now is I have these 3 things: ketchup, landscaping, podcast. I'm building these things because I think that all 3 of them have pretty much unlimited like room for growth. And they don't really have a ceiling. Like everyone needs landscaping, everyone needs ketchup, and everyone listens to, like, anyone can listen to a podcast. There's basically unlimited people on YouTube, Spotify to hear this podcast. So through those 3 things, through providing services to people, to landscaping clients, a lot of our clients are older. A lot of our clients are busy. If we can, I truly believe that actually has a huge impact. Like making someone's yard look nice just gives them a completely, it just cleans up something that they don't, it makes, you know, them less stressed out about day to day, because that's done. And it gives them a bit of pride, because that's something that people don't care about as much as they did back in the, you know, age before social media. You know, keeping your yard nice. Ketchup, there's nothing better than giving someone a ketchup sample at a farmer's market and seeing their eyes light up and they say that they love the ketchup. Nothing better than that. And then obviously, like we've talked about with this podcast, inspiring anyone and everyone to do what they want to do.
Absolutely. That's awesome, man. Yeah, well, I just want to say before we head out, I really appreciate you having me on. I think what you're doing here is amazing. I think just what you're doing with your life is amazing. As, you know, someone, you're what, 18, 19?
18, yeah.
18, that's incredible. So I appreciate you letting me be a part of it. Real quick, I know it'll be in the link below for the video, but if anyone wants to ask questions about health or fitness, you can ask. It's at Best Self LLC on Instagram. If you just want to follow the weird stuff I do in my life, it's at Trevor Kaucic 27. And then also bestselfllc.org to ask questions there. But again, man, this has been a blast. I love our conversations.
I agree 100%. Thanks, Trevor. Send me that little synopsis thing, and then any handles, and I'll put it all in there too.
You bet.
Cool,
Thanks, man. Have a good one.
You too.